from a longer term perspective, or just value creation perspective in general, where you've got biotechs with big pipelines and no revenues and billion-dollar plus valuations. Then you have someone like Valiant, who has no pipeline, but is just doing, has a business development pipeline. They're just doing transactions, but they're trading at 11 times sales and 18 times EBITDA. They also happen to have 61% EBITDA margins, which is pretty healthy. But what does the panel here think is more, I guess, important for value creation? Is it R&D pipeline or is it BD pipeline? And David, we could start with you on this.
First of all, and going back to the first question, evaluations, I think and I'm going to go to where R&D is more impactful for long-term value creation. And also, I think for all of us as society, we want that model to be where value creation is coming from. Otherwise, we have intractable disease states that have absolutely no support for or good interventional therapies that can have an impact. So as a society, we all better be working to try to make that work. And I hope some of the valuations now, and this is hope because there's no data for it, but it is reflective of maybe an early stage renaissance and innovation in biopharmaceuticals. Going to at least what I'm seeing in a CRO now, where's the volume coming from in terms of clinical trials, and what types of things can I discern from looking at 600 clinical trials that are running through our operation? A couple insights on that. First, we still see a big propensity coming from biotech and small molecule. Periodically, we see some really interesting innovation on the small molecule side. Maybe some hope out of this DNA encoded library concept where we're making hundreds of billions of compounds in libraries as opposed to high throughput screening that maybe had 40 million compounds. So there could be some small molecule piece coming through with more work, but it's still, right now, it's primarily biologic that's driving it. A lot of oncology, hematology work, other disease states depending on the product that's coming through. We're seeing less and less of this, what I call silly season thinking, of fourth-in-class statin coming in after atorvastatin goes generic. And I'm sitting there and looking, because I come from Pfizer, and saying, you're really going to put that much money into a development program for a statin that's going to have, if you're lucky, a marginal improvement over atorvastatin? Nobody's going to pay for it. So I had seen more of that in the industry before coming to PPD in the last 2 years. I'm seeing less of that. I'm seeing some really interesting medicines coming through the pipeline. So all this to say, I like the R&D side of it. I'm biased. It's to our benefit to run more clinical work that way, but at least the anecdotal evidence points in that direction. And Yunin or Ed, do you have any perspective on R&D pipeline versus BD pipeline for value, whether that's today or long term?
Yeah, I mean, I fully agree. It's the R&D pipeline. I mean, and the market is not going to give you credit for BD unless you keep doing it. So they give you credit for the last deal, but they don't give you much credit that you're going to do it, because it's not it's not there. They don't know if it can be repeated. And there are a lot of unmet medical needs out there. There's no doubt about that. I mean, at Arbor, we've got 8 projects in development right now, from 505(b)(2)s to NCEs to orphan drugs, and every one of them are going to meet an unmet need in the marketplace. We've also got generics, because I think generics are becoming, obviously it's 80+% of the market, so I think you have to almost play in every area these days. You have to be in biologicals, you have to be in small molecules, and you have to be in generics in some way. And most of the innovation, to me, is not coming from the big companies either. It's coming from these startup companies of great scientists that work in this entrepreneurial environment, that are being funded by private equity like yourselves and venture capitalists, and they've got skin in the game. They have to make it work, and that's where the best development is coming from these days, I believe.